Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is the Patron hangout and discussion. Our book club, basically, our every 2 week book club discussion of the all things Buffyverse and sometimes Fireflyverse. Um, we just did a rewatch of Loyalty, the first part of an Angel explosion.
Yeah.
I'm not good at intros, never have been. So, in 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about the Buffy episode Normal Again, which should be a fun discussion. If you are interested and you ever want to join in and hang out with us and talk about Buffyverse things, there's a link down in the description to either the YouTube membership, it's the $5 and up tier, Scooby Gang tier on YouTube, or over on Patreon. However, these discussions, the stream will always be free to all, and I'm grateful for the people who join here being willing to share. The other thing, too, is there's a fully spoiled discussion. We had someone in the rewatch who had not watched all of Angel. Everyone in this group today has watched all of Angel and all of Buffy, so we don't put any restrictions on what we can talk about. However, if we do get, every once in a while, we have gotten people who join the discussions who have not finished the show, and they are welcome to. And in that case, we switch to a non-spoiler discussion of the episode. So that's all I have to say about that. Josh, Jack, did I forget anything?
I don't think so.
All right. Josh.
Ian. For the general audience, how's Pylea coming?
Oh, yes. Pylea will be up for early release sometime this week, probably later in the week. And then we'll be up for everyone next week. Probably next weekend. Not this weekend. Not this coming weekend. Words. Hi, Josh.
Hey, Ian. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for giving me the break from the rewatch stream. I appreciate it. It's weird to it's so funny. The hosting performance hat just goes on the head, and then a different mode switches on. It's very strange. Tell me about the episode.
Oh man,
Loyalty.
I was unpacking it a little bit with Jack as we were watching, and I think I'm experiencing not a tainting, but like a dampening of my enjoyment of season 3 because I know where this is all going.
You're only now experiencing that. How many you've
Well,
done
look at let
rewatches
me
before? Why is this a new thing?
I think I'm just now understanding that that's what I'm
Oh,
experiencing.
got it. Yeah.
Because like I keep having this experience of like this is an awesome episode and I hate it. Like
Yeah.
and
Well,
Loyalty is an awesome episode and I don't hate it. I just, I know where it's going.
as usual, I wish Tom was here to be the counterpoint because I feel like I've been such a friggin' negative Nancy for the past couple of episodes. We're getting into normal again, and I love that episode. So I'll wear I put on the evil shirt because I feel like my shirts need to start indicating where I land on the particular episode. So
So
if the shoe fits. But
Loyalty is not one of your favorites then.
if you I it has some of the most memorable scenes in the show. It has
Hmm.
wonderful moments of pinnacle drama,
Hmm.
and it bugs me. And uh, I the best comparison that I can think of is Entropy, right?
Okay.
Entropy, the end of Entropy, is gorgeous. It makes me cry. I love
Hmm.
it, and I hate that scene is where it is in the story because
Yeah.
because placement makes it feel so flipping manipulative
Hmm.
and like there's no math. Lani and I were talking about this beforehand. Like this sounds like a weird thing to say. There's no math to drama. I think that I think that young viewers watching a cartoon understand why something is dramatic, that a death scene is dramatic, that
Hmm.
a whatever is dramatic, so forth. The key, I think, in storytelling is to hide the math, right? To make it feel organic and all of that. And the what's bugging me in this episode is the highlight of how much Angel loves being a parent. The
Yes.
the highlight of how much he loves fatherhood and the proximity to what we know is going to happen in the next episode, which I actually thought happened in this episode, felt so manipulative.
Yeah.
Like in a bubble, the individual writing of that scene in the event is marvelous, but broadly speaking, it feels inorganic to me. Like the way these moments of joy and happiness are paired so closely to these destructive events feels to me like that only occurs just to heighten the loss and the impact in the following scene, which of course
Hmm.
that is the reason why, but like it didn't have to feel like if this were several episodes earlier or something like that, it wouldn't feel so contrived. And that's what I'm struggling with here. And I struggle with that a fair amount in Angel, I think.
You made a remark in a season three video that we rewatched recently, just on our own. Um, and I think it was in Lover's Walk, actually, where Oz and Cordelia are just so like openly affectionate with Willow and Xander that it felt manipulative because of the upcoming like disaster that was coming because Xander and Willow were about to get discovered.
I didn't know I was locker door material.
It's the same kind of a thing, it sounds
Yeah.
like you're saying.
Well, for some reason, that didn't stand out to me in that episode the way this does. And maybe it's teen romance to me is less of a hammer swing than Angel's child being stolen and Wesley's throat being cut. Like
Yeah.
the until we get to season 5, the drama of the next couple of episodes is some of the most significant
Hmm.
in all the show. Because I mean, yes, we've had Darla in the alleyway and Doyle, who had been on the episode for been on the show for what, 8 episodes by that point.
Yeah, I think so.
But this is all main characters. This is uh harm and hell occurring to all of the main characters and things that never, like, it's so rare to see drama that doesn't get taken back. Like the events of the next couple of episodes are irrevocable and affect the rest of the show in a way that is, I think, brave storytelling, really fun and interesting.
Hmm.
It's just the little bits and bobs in this one that are getting to me. And I find out Angel recently, I'm getting distracted by dumb stuff. Anyway, I've been going on a rant. You're supposed to cut me off.
No, no, no. This is what we want. This is what we're here for. Yeah, no, it. I totally agree on the like notion that this is highfalutin, top shelf, very dramatic, and like there are little character arcs within the episode. Like Gun goes from, who cares what Wesley thinks to no, actually, Wesley's trying to do a job, and if I keep undermining him, I'm not helping him do his job.
Hmm.
Like that's a nice little arc that he gets.
Yeah,
And
gentle.
Wesley gentle.
Yeah.
And I do love all of the setups and all of the like ham-fisted cuts over to Wesley's face whenever something comes up that reinforces for him how true the prophecy is and how likely it is to come to pass. I didn't catch one until this time around, but when Angel is talking about, the hockey scene and Wesley overhears him, Wesley starts to smile and relax, but then Angel says, "He makes me so happy," and Wesley like tenses up and frowns on the word happy. And I never caught that before, but I think that's a
Oh,
real
because of
marvelous little
the,
detail.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
because what
Angel's,
Wesley's the one who said, "Do you know how rare that is? True happiness."
yeah. The other thing I was thinking watching this time is maybe Wesley should know a little better. You were pointing out during the live stream, and I mean, like, that seems like a self-evident comment to make, but I'm just saying. I'm not saying not just because the prophecy is wrong, but because Wesley is who he is and has the experience with Buffy and the experience over on Buffy with the prophecy of the Master. Prophecies are a tricky thing. If you hadn't come, I couldn't go. Which I think is fascinating and never really gets unpacked on the show. The prophecy said this thing. She still chose to go to her destiny, and yet it was destiny.
Hmm.
I think is really interesting. And what was the other one? Oh, the Shanshu prophecy. The vampire with a soul will die. The vampire with a soul will live. Will Shanshu become human?
Hmm.
There were multiple interpretations of that prophecy, and yet, as you pointed out in this episode, everything he's doing is validating his one particular perspective.
Because he's not talking to anybody. And I don't disagree that it's perfectly. I'm not saying it's out of character. Like I'm not saying that
Sure,
Wesley
yeah,
is being written poorly.
that's the
Um,
struggle.
that's the beautiful nature
Yeah,
of Wesley's fall is that this his fall is driven by his tragic characteristics. So he's not talking to Angel because the prophecy is about him, and he's worried that Angel will just dismiss it out of hand. He's not talking to Gunn because he's currently resenting Gunn. He's not talking to Fred because he's ashamed to be around Fred, thanks to Billy. Cordy ain't there.
even though it's acknowledged in this episode by Gunn that Fred knows about Wes's interest in her,
Hmm.
which I had never noticed before. I thought uh, they I didn't realize that she just was. I thought they always played her as unaware, and I kind of appreciate the fact that it's acknowledged because it made her look. It's just it's underselling the character who's supposed to be the smartest character in the
Hmm.
group. For her to not realize that Wesley has a ginormous crush on her, so it's nice that it was acknowledged.
Yeah, agreed. So, like, it makes perfect sense why he's not talking to anybody else, but I voted, is there any way that what Wesley's doing is right? I voted no, and that's why.
Yeah,
Like, it's
is there it's an inch it's a tricky question, right? Is there any lens through which what Wesley is doing is correct versus can we understand why Wesley is doing what he's doing, which is a very
Mhm.
different question. Is there
If
any
he
lens
talked
through which
to,
it's justified versus there is there any lens through which we understand?
we understand. I don't think it's justified that he takes Connor
Yeah,
at
yeah,
all.
yeah. Like put your drama aside and have a conversation with the other members of the team.
At the very beginning of this season, Wesley threatens to fire Gunn because Gunn wasn't forthright with him. He said, "You put this team in jeopardy, and I can't have that."
Yeah.
Now he's
Well,
making the same mistake.
the 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 thing I love is that um to partially quote a terrifying episode, it goes all the way back to Faith.
Hmm.
When Buffy and Giles were talking about how to manage what Faith had done,
Hmm.
Wesley didn't have a conversation. I mean, in fairness, they didn't either, but he didn't seek to communicate, and whatever he just tried to take over, and it
Hmm.
didn't go very well, and take her, and it didn't go very well.
Hmm.
So yeah,
And I
the
mean, we even called it out in the Pylea video. Like this is all perfectly in character with him. This is his tragic flaw,
yeah
and
the
his mistake is not taking Connor. His mistake is not talking to anybody about it.
the roots of his fall are deeply well established
Yeah.
in the lead up to this, which I really loved. Well, is there anything I spoke for more than half? I think of what of yours is there anything else you wanted to throw out before we move on?
I get the real world reasons why, but I still resent that they wrote Cordelia out of this arc. I think that this arc would have been much more dramatic and fascinating if she'd been a part of it.
Yeah, Yeah.
As
Yeah.
dramatic and fascinating as this arc already is, like it's good. It could have been
Yeah.
amazing. It could have been amazing.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
I'm gonna go eat my
Uh,
Thai food.
all right. Cool. Let me go over to Allison. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
All right.
Excellent.
Okay.
Uh,
So about Wesley.
yay.
So I think it's already been covered. He's being hypocritical here, especially in light of what he said to Gunn earlier this season, especially in light to what he said to Gunn last episode and this episode, both about you should tell me even just that you're in a relationship because it affects team dynamics, and the subtext on the we're sending you for reconnaissance, and then you should bring that information back and we should discuss it as a group so that we can all decide and be informed about, even just a little thing like a vampire nest on the pier. I think that if we actually look at it in context to some of the stuff from Buffy, we can actually. So, one of the things about the way Giles is with Buffy is that there are times when the advice he gives her isn't a standard that he personally holds himself to.
Sure.
And I think that might be something that Giles and Wesley have in common, which makes me think that's what the Watchers Council thinks of in terms of leadership.
Oh, I was
So,
about to say, I think the difference here is um, Wesley doesn't might distinguish being a part of the team from being a leader.
right,
You
right.
know.
It's the idea that, okay, the advice you give to some, if there's a hierarchy and there's a chain of command, then the advice of how someone who's is supposed to act, who's lower on that chain of command, is different from how you're supposed to act when you're the leader.
Yeah.
But even in situations where it's not really about, so some of the things I'm thinking about on Buffy are like, season one has an entire episode where Giles Nichols is on Buffy's case about shirking uh, destiny and saving lives because she has a date. And then two episodes into season two, it's like, hey, some assembly required. Someone's head is going to get chopped off. Will you help out? But I have a date. Just like the standards of advice that they're giving to other people aren't ones that they are at all self-aware about holding themselves to.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. But it feels in character though,
It's
right?
in character. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's in character. It makes sense in the world. It makes sense as a tragic flaw. All of that's fair. It's just like it's all. Yeah, yeah, all that.
Yeah. I love too that the threads here are can be traced that far back, all the way back to Buffy. To some
Hmm.
degree, I think after Room with a View, Cordy feels like a different Cordy. Which is
She's
nice.
shifted enough, but it's like
Yeah,
acknowledged in the story that is a shift.
yeah. It's so interesting. He's this character that is carrying damage or broken insight. Um, and the whole theme of season two and like his episode in Guys Will Be Guys was sort of seeing himself in Angel, finding his power and his competence in through pretending to be Angel in that episode, which I thought was really clever. But there's also, if this is definitely an overread, but I mean, Angel is an isolationist. Angel is constantly needing to be coaxed back to the group,
Hmm.
potentially idealizing the wrong aspects of him. I don't think there's any evidence beyond Guys Will Be Guys that that's what Wesley took from that experience, but it did come to mind when you were kind of talking about where he goes with things. And
Hmm.
his two best friendships are Cordy and Gunn, but this has ruined his relationship with Gunn. And Cordy has always shown that she will drop a person at the drop of a hat if they cross Angel. Like her loyalty to Angel is sort of her number one thing.
I mean, it is, but I do
Then
think
she'll
that
kill him dead.
If Wesley had called Cordelia and said, "Hey, things might be going down here. I think Connor is in danger. Have you had any visions recently? And if you do, tell me." And
Yeah.
so, even if he wasn't going to be forthcoming about exactly what was going to be happening, not having that conversation means he's not even doing due diligence on checking avenues of information on verifying this prophecy. Like a lot of research happens off screen usually, and so
Mhm.
we can just assume, oh, we assume Wes was thorough about this. But Cordelia has zero idea what's happening when she comes back later. And so we know he didn't do that. So that's it, it's not even just not talking to people. It's also not gathering as much information as he should have been
Yeah.
given the seriousness of this.
Well, but he talked to a giant hamburger, so there was some. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. What?
You,
I'm also getting.
Wesley, do not get all of your advice from giant hamburgers.
Yeah, everything is cryptic. It drives me nuts. The point where he's at in the series, when it comes to prophecy and all of that, he really should know better. I feel
Mhm.
like, but
Yeah.
yeah, again,
Even if he
not
wasn't
communicating.
present for Prophecy Girl, at least enough information of what happened there should have made it to the Watchers Council and then waited to it be him when he was being sent to Sunnydale to be Watcher to both current Slayers at the beginning, which
Yeah,
included Buffy.
unless
Like,
Buffy didn't tell anyone about that.
I feel
That
like
what
not
the
to,
master said.
I feel like Giles knew that she died and came back. That conversation
Yeah,
happened at the end of the episode. So the exact details wouldn't be there, but it also would have come up when Kendra came to town first.
yeah,
So like the idea that Buffy died, but not permanently, just for a minute, is known to him,
just a
and he
little.
should be conveying information.
Yeah. Well,
Presumably. It
specifically, the thing that I was talking about is the master pointing out the paradox
Right, right. You don't
of the
necessarily
thing.
know the paradox, but you know that there are sometimes loopholes. So the
Yeah,
idea that the father will kill the son might have a loophole should be there.
yeah, yeah. Well, what else you got on the episode? Anything else that
Uh,
stands out?
Talking about Fred and Gunn a tiny bit. So one of the things that makes that B arc fall of this episode fall a little flat for me is that we, the audience, know for well and certain that Wesley does not have some principled belief that dating a fellow Angel Investigations member is the wrong thing to do. He was literally planning on asking out Fred 2 episodes
Yeah,
ago. And
as the group
so,
leader, which is even
yes.
more fraught.
Yes, and so they're engaging with this hypothetical of, oh, what would happen if we had to choose between this particular romantic relationship and our current jobs, but they're treating it as though it's a more possibility than it actually is. Wesley doesn't ever directly say, you're in the Fred, you're in the wrong for dating a coworker or focusing on dating right now. He just makes a comment about how, no, I am not going to go be set up with this particular woman who you're currently in conversation trying to set me up with. That's his personal work-life balance decision.
Yeah,
It can She can read into that, but there was never a moment where she should have stood up to him for that, and that doesn't get conveyed to Gunn. And so it makes that entire Gunn Fred back half of the episode feel like it's just okay, they're talking about this as though it's serious, but it's actually not, because they're not actually in danger of having to make a choice like that.
yeah. I think you're right. I just didn't notice that that was the case because that relationship so does nothing for me. Chemistry is a weird thing, right? And
Hmm.
feeling chemistry is a weird thing. And I feel like Gunn has chemistry with everyone except Fred. And I'm talking about Gunn has chemistry with Wes. Gunn has chemistry with Cordy. Gunn has chemistry with Angel. But this romantic chemistry between the two of them, and I don't know why, for me, is so flat and distracting that I just kind of get a little grumbly when it's on screen. But I think you're absolutely right. Like the Wesley has not introduced a reason for them to have that conversation necessarily. So yeah, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying.
I think my impression of Fred and Gunn as a couple is that it feels like they're both smitten with a very flat version of the other person.
Yeah,
It's
that's a good way
like
to describe it.
it's like Fred is giggly and happy about the thing Gunn has said, Ed, and the flirting and the certain stuff, and Gunn is in his own way the same, and they're both happy about it, but it doesn't actually feel like they have that much that they've found that's in common or that they found that they know about each other. Like there's pieces of it, and like it's fine. And I'm not that much a fan of Fred and Wesley either, solely on being critical of some of the things Wesley chooses
Sure.
and
Yeah.
does in
Yeah.
general. And so it's not like a ship war thing, but like
Oh no, we
that's just my take.
my thing about Fred and Wesley is that we get one episode of it. You know,
Mhm.
the thing I mentioned to Josh about entropy and all of that also happens with Fred and Wesley. One episode before A Hole in the World. Like the show is Angel more than Buffy is kind of notorious for like, oh, I mean, entropy and seeing red is the Buffy example, but I can think of several examples on Angel where it was like one episode before, we'll let this happen because we're about to destroy it and it'll heighten the dramatic impact for the audience. So I have no feeling about the. I think A Hole in the World is spectacular. I have no specific feelings about Gunn and or excuse me, Wes and Fred as a relationship because we didn't get to see it. Like, there's no, it was never on screen. But while you were talking, the thing that strikes me is that at this point in the show, when you think about Cordy and you think about Gunn, they're both very empowered characters. They've arced to some degree at this point. They have strong developed backstories, and Fred to me feels like she's just barely past this weird point where they were infantilizing her. Where she was the mentally ill squirrel who wouldn't come out of her bedroom. And then we have one episode where she builds a trap, and now there's this relationship already going on. So there's like an imbalance. He's not dating who she becomes, and I think who she becomes is a more interesting character later in the show. At this point in the show, for me, the struggle is he's a far more interesting character than she is. To me, they're both wonderful actors. And they're both very pretty. So this has nothing to do with any of that. It's just like I'm trying to understand why I struggle with that ship to the degree that I do, but which is not necessarily what we're here to discuss. Was there one last thing you want to throw out about the episode?
I guess I can clarify the same thing I said earlier when it's like, okay, it feels like they're smitten with an idealized version of the other person. Sometimes that is how relationships start, and then you
Yeah.
get to know each other. And that's not this could have been taken in a direction where that relationship got more depth and complexity over time, and it would have been great. That's kind of what I see it. It's like, okay, this is the start of something that could have gone somewhere if the writers had decided to do that.
Well, and I think that Reed is very specifically Riley and Buffy, not Buffy and Riley. Riley with Buffy. Riley had Buffy on a pedestal for the entire relationship, and he couldn't live up to her. So that like pedestal idealized vision of who she was, as opposed to Buffy,
Right.
who she is and all her flaws. And yeah, I think that is something that you might see in younger relationships in storytelling like this. So it makes sense that there's some version of that going on between these two people. But like, well, I'm not gonna dunk on Fred. All right, I appreciate it. Before I go over to Russell, I'm gonna take a quick 5-minute break. Talk amongst yourselves. I will be right back with you.
That's the first time he hasn't used the word vamp, and I feel weird.
So if you haven't seen The Accountant, and thus
Okay.
haven't seen The Accountant 2, then I've got two pieces of good news for you. They're both very good movies. I highly recommend them.
Anton, for a split second, my mind, I thought you were talking about a film called The Secretary, which is probably a wildly different film.
Very different film. This
Yeah,
is not James Spader and Maggie Gyllenhaal.
BDSM.
You're right. This is
Yeah.
um nothing like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Probably, yeah. I'm assuming so. The Secretary it's a good film though. Like from what I remember, it's not a bad film. It's just very full on.
It was a lot. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's a lot. Anyway, this got weird. Sorry.
that's all right.
Uh,
Well, yeah, The Accountant 2 is out in theaters here in the United States, and it's
I
very good.
the other night I went to there's a movie theater around me that does like will sometimes show older stuff, classic stuff, and just does quirky little screenings. I went and saw an anime called Perfect Blue, and it was surprisingly good. I'm not really an anime guy, but Perfect Blue is an anime from '97, and it's what Black Swan, the film, was based on. Apparently, Aronofsky actually purchased the rights to Perfect Blue so he could make Black Swan. Apparently, from what I've read.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it was good. So surprisingly good. I'm just anime as a medium just has never really grabbed me like it has pretty much every other millennial on the planet.
I like anime, but I'm definitely not obsessed with it. Lauren, are you having sound problems? We can't hear you.
Oh, oh, sorry. Yeah. We couldn't. Sorry if you were talking. It seemed like we were ignoring you.
No, you're unmuted in Zoom, but you still.
Yeah. You don't. It doesn't say that you're muted.
Still can't.
No.
That was Allison.
I can't hear her either. And Jack, your audio seems a little low for some reason. I don't know.
That's because I forgot to adjust my mic. For some reason, Windows automatically ducks my mic, and I can't stop it. Something wrong. So I shall fix that. I usually fix it before the stream, but I forgot this time. That should be better now.
There
Oh
you go.
yeah, hearing you loud and clear, buddy.
Cool.
Hey, Josh. Well, I guess I could ask Ian too, because he did see this DS9 episode. But and anybody else who has seen DS9, who do you think did that trope better? The trope of normal again, by the way, from Buffy. DS9 also did that. That's a similar thing to it.
I think, I think that's a hard one to answer because Deep Space Nine, when they did it, it was a sequel episode. So like we were going back to the Benny Russell character, and so like there was already some depth to that character and to that world as well. Whereas Buffy had to do it cold at the drop of a hat in this episode and does really well with it. I think it's a toss up.
Yeah, I mean, like you pointed out, they do go back to the DS9. If they never did, how would you rate it? Like if it would have been a standalone, Far Beyond the Stars. I mean,
I don't think Far Beyond the Stars and Normal Again are the same trope. I think that Shadows and Symbols and Normal Again are the same trope.
ah, fair enough. Welcome back, Ian.
Hi, Lauren, you're muted. No, we can't hear you.
She's been having sound problems that she's trying to resolve.
The problem is she isn't muted, but we can't hear her for some reason.
So it's a mic issue on your computer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
I wonder if I can turn off the notifications of people joining. When you're not host, do you get a notification sound? Oh, well, then I couldn't pin. It's Fine. We'll figure that out next time. Let me go over to Russell.
Hey, Ian.
Hello, sir. How you doing?
Good. A little tired, but good. Work's
Yeah,
been chaotic for the last couple weeks.
You and me both.
Uh,
Burning the candle at every ends, and then I'm melting it in a microwave.
I totally feel it. This
So we're
episode.
getting down to it, huh?
Yeah, we're getting to. And we've had the conversation before, and I reckon we're going to have it a couple more times. Wes's downfall, so to speak.
Sure, yeah. Well, I like a good tragic fall. To commit to tragedy of a main character in the way that the show does, I think is really interesting and feels unusual.
But one thing I can't believe I missed this. When Wesley is talking to the Lau, yes, he's getting misinformation about the prophecy about Angel killing Connor.
Right.
But he also brings up Wesley's betrayal, which it's so subtle that I have missed it in quite a
yeah.
Yeah, he says something about, I can't remember the line off of the back of, like, darkness, betrayal. He's talking to Wesley about his actions. Of course, you'll miss it the first time you watch it because you have no idea that Wesley's going to run out with Connor. And it is a tragic arc. Yeah. And I think they deliberately set it up to keep Wesley out of options. I mean, yes, you could make the argument, well, he could have called Cordelia.
True. Well, and I mean, I think if Cordy were, I think we as fans think about the fiction as if Cordy were here, this either wouldn't have happened or it would have gone differently. But I can see a version of this where Cordy is on the show and they think of a reason for Wesley to not talk to her about it. Or like the scene where, I think it was in Waiting in the Wings, where she talks to both Fred and Wesley about the romance and misunderstands that Fred is talking about Gunn and not Wesley. So she advises Wesley to strike while the iron is hot and so forth. I could see a version of this where Cordy is on the episode and they write the scene in a way where Cordy misunderstands what the advice is that Wesley is asking about. They were going to write it the way they were going to write it. I just think for us, the fans, not having Cordy there, it leaves sort of an open loop of like, well, there's this constant open question, even though, the story was probably plotted out well in advance.
You guys earlier were talking about loopholes in the prophecies. You brought up Prophecy Girl when the master reveals, if you didn't come, I couldn't go.
You're the
How ironic. If Sajan didn't interfere with Angel and Darla, Connor wouldn't have grown up so quickly. Connor wouldn't have had to go through a memory wipe, and Connor wouldn't have gotten his memories back, and Connor wouldn't be in a position to kill Sajan, or at least
interesting
in that time frame. So, and who knows what would have happened 18 years down the road. I mean, in 5 years of Angel, think of all the enemies Angel had to fight off. So
Jasmine's the bigger schemer than Sajan. She got out schemed by a bigger schemer.
So I like this episode. I'm not going to weigh in too heavy on it.
Sure. It's an incomplete story right now.
I do want to get back to Hell's Bells real quick if I can add something.
Yeah.
Like I said, my work's been chaotic, so
no, totally.
I slept through your guys' last stream. I was that tired. Xander, and I'm not gonna, for a lack of a better term, I'm not gonna dump on the actor or the writer that wrote him, but that's, the actor who plays him and then the writer who wrote his character.
Talking about Nicholas Brendan, and I thought that was a Marty Noxon episode, but it's not. We looked it up. It's It's either a Stephen DeKnight or it's someone else that I was like, oh, they wrote this episode. But anyway, go ahead.
But Xander's biggest flaw throughout the show is is that none of his actions have consequences. We don't go back and question him about, hey,
Yeah.
So he doesn't get it. He thinks he gets a free pass. In Hell's Bells, he handles it inappropriately. I mean, leaving someone at the altar is pretty cold. But it would have been a worse situation to just rough it through a marriage
that you
you're
don't
not ready
believe in.
for.
Yeah. And aren't ready for. Yeah,
And-
I think that episode is written in a way that sells him short. Was kind of where I landed on that. Like I can completely understand a fan of the show watching that episode and hating Xander when all is said and done. But ever since my video on Restless, where I feel like the foundation has been well laid for Xander's trauma and experienced abuse, and how that would and it culminates in this scene where it invades the choices that he makes in his romantic relationships, and I find that profoundly relatable and understandable. I can empathize with him as a character. Where we landed is it's just the last couple of ways that scene is written feels like it actually breaks his character a little bit. I don't think he would have left the church. I think the breakup occurs, but the way the breakup is handled dramatically in that scene plays out a little bit differently if that's Xander, but not everyone felt that way during the discussion, if I remember correctly.
And what follows that episode, and we can talk about that another time, but Xander actually tries to make amends, at least on a friendship level, with Anya.
Well, he doesn't
Anya-
understand what happened.
Anya's reaction is, let's go back to the one thing I know, which is becoming a vengeance demon.
Yeah. Well,
So-
and Xander's reaction is similar. Let's go back to the one thing I know, which is Anya.
Yeah.
You know,
Fair.
they're both they're both misunderstanding what got broken, which again I think is very relatable. I think I hated that episode the first time I watched it. There's a tendency with season 6 to be fatigued by the despair, even though I think that's part of what that season is about. And I think even by that point, I was feeling a little bit of despair fatigue. Like that last bit of her walking down the aisle is so brutal. You know, but then but then you get it. But it, just in rewatch, I think it was specifically when I was writing Restless and trying to understand all of the dreams, and I understood that the way I read Xander's dream in Restless is he's just terrified of turning into his father. By that measure, the rest of his choices throughout the series become clear and understandable. And that's what made Hell's Bells fall into place for me as a viewer.
I actually like Hell's Bells, to be honest with you.
I do now. It's an episode that grew on me.
One last final thought.
Sure.
I know you got to move on.
No, you're
I
good.
want to go back to real quickly with Wesley, but even though this is a couple episodes later, this is when he takes Connor. You know, I think my struggle with his decisions.
No, that's next episode. But yeah.
Well, then you have Unforgiving following that one, don't you?
Yeah.
So I think the struggle for me is I'm reminded of Redemption, the Next Generation, where Data disobeys Picard's orders. And Picard gives Data that speech at the end, if
You're talking about
Starfleet
unification? I thought unification was
about-
the one where he disobeys.
It's Redemption.
Redemption.
Okay.
Part 2. Yeah, he disobeys Picard's order. Data's in command of a second ship, and Data finds a way to discover the Romulans through their cloak.
Oh,
And
yeah. They're similar. Yeah.
but
I
that's
was. I forget
with
that the Romulans are in Redemption. That's why.
yeah,
Redemption Part 2. But anyway, yeah, Picard's moral speech at the end.
like Starfleet doesn't want captains who blindly just take orders. They want them to take initiative. And my
Yeah.
whole thought is, what if Data would have been wrong? How would this conversation have gone? And with Wesley, what if he would have been right? How would have things turned out?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
where do you draw
interesting.
that line?
I mean, one of the I'm not well versed in this idea, but one of the things that is an issue with superhero stories, which Buffy and arguably Angel are, is that they are a little Ayn Randy pro-fascist through a certain lens, which is the unifying power of one remarkable person. And I've read interviews with Whedon that said he struggled with that, and there are references in other episodes about that. I was thinking specifically of Anne. Which is Buffy leading a communist uprising, holding the hammer and sickle in hell, and the whole ending of season 3 was intended to be kind of an antidote to the idea of Buffy being the only remarkable single special individual, where the entire student union rises up against the mayor and his flunkies. So it's tough, right? Like these stories about Picard's point is seen through the lens of a for all intents and purposes military organization, which has a different set of structures and rules than contextually than this situation does. The team investigations is not a military, it's a community, it's a family, and I think that's a different set of rules than the hierarchy and structure that Picard was referring to. But I love that you brought that up. I think that's really fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it could have worked out either way for Wesley. And unlike Data, Wesley's human.
Yeah.
We all have flaws. And,
Yeah.
we're not going to be perfect. And
Oh
he
God,
was walking a very fine line.
is Data Star Trek Chat GPT? Actually, I think the ship would be, the Enterprise itself is Star Trek's Chat GPT. We haven't met Data yet, but that's going to be terrifying when we do. All right, man. Is there anything else you want to throw out about the episode?
I'm good. Good to be here, buddy. Good seeing you.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you. Let me go over to Lauren. Let's see if we can get your audio. Cannot hear you. I think if I go to, if you want to mess with your audio, I can go over to Josh. Feel free to keep doing sound tests, and I'll let you know if we can hear you.
You mean Jack?
Jack. Yes. Sorry, Jack. You don't mind being interrupted.
No, of course. Yeah, I don't have a ton to say. Well, no. It's because I said a lot of what I have to say at the rewatch is the problem. But I feel like I'm the only person here who doesn't necessarily blame Wes for what he does.
I think there's a distinction between,
to an extent,
understand and blame. Both can be true in this situation. I completely understand why he did what he did.
Yeah.
And he's responsible. It was the wrong thing to do.
Sure, I see, that's the thing. I think it was Josh that said that ultimately him taking Connor was the wrong thing to do. But I think given
given the information that he had and the conclusions that he drew from that information, I believe it was the right thing to do. Ultimately, not in the grand scheme of things, but given what he had, I think, because he was trying to save a baby's life, essentially, like that's what he believed he was doing.
But your crush, both man and romantic, being at odds with them, and that being the reason to not have a conversation with them about the fact that you're about to steal a baby of your shared friend in order to save the baby is not quality justification, right? Like the fact that he and Gunn and Fred are on the outs because jealous romantic triangle bullshit.
I don't know if that's really the reason why he doesn't bring it up with them, though. I don't know. I don't think there's any.
The only textual reason that is given.
I think he's keeping it to himself because he doesn't. He's just worried what the information will do if he puts it out there. Perhaps, I don't know. He could be worried that he doesn't want Angel to know in case it somehow triggers it brings it forth, or people just dismiss him or something.
Angel has superpowers. Angel could just disappear with the baby if he wanted to.
If he wanted to. Yeah, true.
So the idea here is like, if Wesley is terrified that that's going to occur, and then there is a reason for caution. However, making this decision by himself without discussing it with those two, simply because the only reason given is the romantic triangle thing, or the head boy, I need to make decisions all by myself.
Again, I think that's the thing. I don't think it's based on his ego, though, just wanting to be in charge and the one to make the decision. I don't think it's that. I think it's as I said, I think he's concerned about what the information will do if he.
We just lost your sound. Probably the cable on the. Oh, now it's back. Now it's gone.
Yeah.
Now it's back.
Don't touch it.
Don't touch it. You need a new cable.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Ultimately, I just think there is a lens to view what he did as the right thing for the wrong reasons, or is it the wrong no, the wrong thing for the right reasons?
Yeah, I think that's a fair reading. Josh says less his ego and more his shame. Post Billy Wesley's self-shame and self-hatred has been inflamed, and he is desperate to just do one thing right.
That's an interesting read. I just don't see it that way. I don't think his choice is based on how he feels. I don't think it's based on anything inward. I think he just wants to save Connor. That's my reading. I don't think I don't know what the justification for that is, because sure, he's got all these issues. I'm just saying we don't really have anything to say that that's what is driving him, right? I don't see that.
I think one of the things that I've been I just lost it. Old man brain. I think one of the things that I've been sort of
you did it, Josh.
No, it's gone. Anyway.
Okay. Here's the thing though. I'm not necessarily saying that I disagree with anything you guys have said, and ultimately we don't know exactly why, whether he is, he just wants to do something right, as Josh said. My read is just he just wants to save Connor, but yeah.
I think both can be true. I think that he's presented with a problem, and he's trying to find the way through, and he desperately wants to find the right way.
Yeah. But he's also he's being manipulated by everybody, Sarjan, Holtz, Wolfram and Hart, everybody's, even the giant hamburger is not being clear with him, for crying out loud.
And
what else is this man going to do?
Clear.
Yeah, right, exactly. Tasty and delicious. And
he should have gone to Burger King.
you know what? Hamburgers should not be complicated. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I just think, yeah, with all that, I just think it's understandable, and ultimately he believes he's saving Connor. You know, that's
Yeah.
my thing.
No, I
Let me
think
see.
the way I get back to some of these things is like there's a good heart, right?
Mhm.
We're just
Yeah.
acknowledging there's a good heart here.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, exactly,
you know,
exactly. Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
what we're trying to interpret is the disconnect between that heart and the events that occur, or sort of the
Yes,
route
yes. And I
through
don't
his
think
machinery.
I don't think it's very clear. I think it's
Yeah.
muddied.
And I think Russell's question is really interesting. The idea that what if this had been true? What if all you had to
Well,
have
yeah,
to remove,
exactly.
all you have to remove is Sajan manipulating.
That's the thing.
Like,
If it was true, I mean,
yeah, it's
could be
interesting.
saving a baby's life. He could be, you know, and he
The
thinks he is.
The fact that this turned out to be a manipulation of Sajan's, like, I think if you remove that from the events, you still have you have to question Wesley's actions from that perspective, not from the fact that it worked out to be a manipulation. It's like through the lens of, if all of this were correct, did he do wrong? And I think the answer is still yes.
Ultimately, in the big picture, yes, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. I just don't think in a bottle, when we're talking about his motives and even his justification, whether it be because he wants to be the man that saves the day or whatever, it's still the right thing, even if it's for the wrong reasons or the wrong motivations. Yeah. But I had the realization doing the rewatch with Josh that I actually really like season 3. I really do. I like 90% of it. I really do. And I don't know why. Maybe it's just I've talked to a lot of people who don't like season 3.
Well, there's a split season coming. Let's see how you feel after the split season has occurred.
It's
Josh
been a while.
Said, this is the prelude. This is the
you're talking
concerto.
about the Jasmine stuff, right?
Yeah. Like, where is this? No, I'm not talking about the Jasmine stuff. I'm talking about season 3's split season, and specifically, you need to do a rewatch.
What do you mean split season?
So about there's no spoil. Halfway through the season, we're 2 or 3 episodes away from Connor going into a dimension.
Yes, and coming back.
We have an episode or 2 of depression, and then teenage Connor comes back, and there begins the split season.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Sorry. No. I know what you mean. Look, teenage Connor is absolutely annoying, and everybody agrees with that. Everybody, he's irritating.
In fairness to everybody, there's someone here who does not agree with that. So we want to allow all.
I'm sorry, Russell. I'm very, very sorry. You know, I love you, brother. I love you very, very much. What did you call him in the video? An unfunny stick in the mud or something?
Yeah, like I don't want to get raced to the discussion that Russell and I are going to have many times, but my struggle with Connor is like, the character is believable given what he's been through, what he's experienced.
But it's unrelenting, and he's rigid is the problem.
There are a lot of believable characters that I wouldn't want to watch television shows about.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And that's my struggle with him.
Now, like, it's been a while, but I do remember enjoying the Jasmine stuff. But yeah, no, there's no two ways about it. Connor is irritating. And I can understand the feeling that, you know, season 3, the culmination of season 3 is teenage Peter Pan pissed off Connor.
And what Josh was saying is that has a reverse effect on this great drama. Is like all of this Sturm and Drang feels like it's it's going to culminate in something so, but it ends up, to use the cliche, full of sound and fury signifying Connor.
But I think, again, look, it's been a while, so maybe I will change my mind on this. Connor's annoying, but the overall story is okay. I think it's the character that really bugs me, I think, but I don't, it's been too long. I don't recall exactly.
We'll get there.
But hang on, the best version of Connor is absolutely baby Connor. I agree. No, I actually know the best version of Connor is when he has his mind wiped and isn't Connor anymore. That's the best version, I think.
That's not Connor, right?
No, it's not. Exactly.
That's a different character,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Is evil Kirk with the goatee the same character as Kirk? No, it's a different universe. It's a different.
No,
it's a completely different character.
It's almost like how Angel and Angelus. Well, I should treat them as separate entities.
I'm Captain Kirk. Sorry.
I have a vague idea of what you're talking about. I think Lauren's back, and that's pretty much all I've got to say. I'm really excited for the rest of the run of this season. It's great.
Yeah, well, and I'm always fishing. We did have an event or an episode or two before this. I think it was the previous Angel episode where I was like, "Huh, I actually like that episode."
Yeah, I wasn't here for that. That was couplet, I think.
I don't want to have the negative Nancy.
No,
negative Ned experience.
Dude, you are always looking for the joy and looking for the love. That's just you in a nutshell. Yeah, but cheers. Let's see if Lauren can speak now. Lauren?
Hello.
Hi, I've gone back to
there you are.
Sorry, it just
welcome.
I don't know what it is. It's only Zoom that seems to be stuffed on my computer. Anyway.
We can hear you.
Okay. Fantastic. Howdy. Okay, so I didn't hear any of what Jack said, so sorry.
No, it's okay.
Gosh. All right. So I guess the things that I look at when I think about this episode, in terms of what everyone was saying about Fred and Gunn, I think it just suffers from the writers don't want it to be endgame, so they're not going to any effort to lay any proper foundation. So like whenever there's a scene, they could be doing stuff.
Out that trope of African American characters, like the
used as placeholders.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh yeah, that is. Once you
I think the only time you don't see it is when it's like a queer couple or something that they don't like. That can be endgame, but they don't do it when it's a hetero couple. Anyway, we could keep going on about how annoying it is, but I think there's plenty of opportunities where they could have shown them having a deeper relationship, but they choose not to. Like we've just had 2 diner scenes. I think this episode and the one before where that we could have had them having discussions. I think you pointed that out, but
they feel like they were filmed back to back.
Possibly
the 2 scenes.
And so like they just keep it very superficial. And yeah, you're right. We don't know a heap about Fred at this point in time. Like we know we did meet her family, and we know she studied a lot, and we know the Piley of it. But
yeah, you compare the conversations between these two versus like Xander and Anya. Even though their conversations feel everyone feel like, especially at that age, everyone feels safe, but I'm thinking specifically of Xander and Anya laying in bed together talking about the detritus piling up along the Buffy relationship highway. Or Xander not wanting to get out of bed to go look for a job, and I think it was in the Yoko Factor. It was the episode after the Yoko Factor.
That stuff away. Yeah.
You can't poof that stuff away. I love that scene. Scene. Him grappling with his insecurity and her cuddling up to him. That is a genuine, authentic, intimate moment, and that is just lacking for me in these relationships.
But we see Xander and Anya spends a lot of time together. Like we know that they're spending a lot of time together, even if it's not all seen on camera. Like Fred and Gunn, like we don't know a heap. We know that they meet for breakfast every day, and we're not getting a lot of content when
they're not
occasionally
talking about
see
anything.
that. Yeah, exactly. So like the writers could have chosen to show that, oh, really, when you were a kid, I used to love that too. Like they could have had just the tail end of some conversations, so we knew that they were having those conversations, but they choose not to give us anything.
Yeah, have Gunn mention his sister and have him go silent for a moment, and she reaches across and puts her hand on his. That's all you need. That moment of expressed intimacy between those two characters would have felt more real than, for me, what plays in these scenes,
Yeah, it's a bit annoying. I agree. When I watch it, I'm annoyed. I wanted more and I didn't get more. And and again, it's just because I feel like they're just so obviously setting it up for Wesley. Like it's not intended to be anything, and that's why they've written it that way.
I think that's a fair read, yeah.
Anyway, so I've been thinking about why the whole Wesley thing annoys me so much. One, prophecy kind of shits me, and I just think, I know it's a show about fantastic stuff, but prophecy comes up a hell of a lot in TV, whereas it doesn't really come up in too many people's like actual lives all that much. And you're sort of like, fuck's sake.
I mean, the church would beg to differ, but anyway.
Well, I watched a bit of Merlin. I'm not encouraging anyone to watch the show. It's kind of crap. But one of the things that sort of had me grappling with is like, is prophecy just another form of like prejudice? Because if you believe a prophecy about something going to happen, you behave in an irrational way towards people because you believe they're going to do something, and it's like judging people without them actually like based on something that has nothing to do with how they've actually acted or what they've actually done up to that point.
Well,
sort of an interesting way.
Yeah, that's an interesting lens to look at it through. I think what you're describing is anything that is not based on the experience of the present moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Assumptions of where things are going, as opposed to just being with the person that is sitting there with you. And sure, that's a form of bias, it's bias, but it's a bias towards a person because of one reason versus a prophecy.
Yep.
Is that
fair?
Yeah,
exactly. Like rather than you're this group of whatever stereotype. So I guess the proto-fascist thing that you mentioned before, because I think of like Nostradamus, like that sort of like goes in a very right-wing direction, like people who genuinely think that shit is all going to come through and whatnot. And to me,
we're
like
dealing that with like billionaire fetishism that's occurring right now, and seeing the results of that. Specifically here in the United States, but
I know it's
as them being sort of special or what have you, and it's like, well, anyway,
it's not creeping fascism anymore. It's already here. I think that was what Mehdi Hassan was saying the other day. Because I feel like when I see that shit, I just want to be like, you're a fucking moron for believing in prophecy, for the love of God. But then the show sort of has already. And most shows do this. They never want to give you a clear cut. This is a load of bullshit, and you're an idiot for believing it. They always leave it open to like, but if they hadn't known, but then it still works out, and then okay. So they never really give you a definitive anything.
Well, that's why I think Prophecy Girl is the most interesting, most interesting use of that in storytelling. Like that entire episode is her weighing the decision and the choice. And it wasn't our world anymore. They made it theirs, and choosing to defend what she believes is right, and to defend her friends and all of that. And then for that to be subverted, which is something the show does so well all the time, by if you hadn't come, I couldn't go, is so fascinating. Like that interaction is incredibly memorable. And ultimately, I don't think the Shanshu prophecy pays off in that way. And that may be by way of the show getting canceled and I'm having to write the Blackthorn thing in 3 episodes. The 5 seasons of building this up, and then he's like, yeah, I'm cool. Here you go. No more Shanshu prophecy. But it is the carrot, and the whole show is kind of about Angel redemption not being a line to cross and then you're done, but redemption / sobriety, as the metaphor goes, but sort of something that needs to be done every single day. And that's what the abdication of it in the Blackthorn arc is supposed to signify, but it doesn't always pay off the right way with Angel as successfully, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I wish there'd been a bit more sort of I mean, they do sort of, in one sense, prove what a problem it is that Wesley just sort of believes it and doesn't tell anyone and all of that. and that, you know, you see it play out in this horrifying way. But then at the end, they kind of, I think, was it Russell who was just pointing out the whole, okay, so the actual prophecy in the end was, we're spoiled, aren't we?
Yeah, we're fully
You know,
spoiled.
that Connor was going to kill Sargon, and then that comes to pass because those Black Form people really, like, set it up to ensure that will play out as closely. But there doesn't seem to be anything particularly remarkable about Connor. Like, he's the only person who could have killed Sargon. Like, I don't know. The whole thing just falls a bit flat for me.
Spiritual market manipulation.
If you're gonna set it up for like 3 seasons, I expect Sargon to be like utterly unkillable, and some fucking miraculous thing had to happen. But anyway, I guess my whole point is to say it's not miraculous because you're an idiot for believing prophecy. So
the payoff in 5 was just like closing the loop, more or less.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate. I would rather that the show ended with them having tried to tie it off. But yeah, a whole season based on it, and then it sort of it was cool.
Yeah, but anyway, I kind of feel like Wesley didn't learn his lesson with Faith, because the sort of running straight to the council kind of sledgehammer approach was really the wrong approach, and what Buffy and Giles had intended, I think, was far better. And so he doesn't learn his lesson there, and he continues to carry this kind of controlling elitism where it's like, I know better than you.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know better, and it's like, but it's not just a work thing. Like, we're all discussing it like because he's the boss. It's Angel's child. Like, there is so much personal in here. Like, it's not just a work decision purely, like, that you're making.
Yeah.
Because Angel had the choice to go kill himself if he's that worried that he's going to harm Connor. Like, he can go do what he wants. So he can say, go take Connor. I'm worried I'm going to hurt him.
Yeah, and I think Angel has always had to grapple with, you know, like, one of the things that Angel values in his friends is that they're willing to murder him.
Yeah.
And I think that...
Well, that ties back to what he said to Gunn at the end of that vision
100%.
thing. Where he's being a total hypocrite, like, you've got to tell me or I'm going to fire you. And then Angel turns to Gunn and says, I'm happy that you're the one who's prepared to do what has to be done.
Yeah, there's a line in, I think, in Eternity where where Angel's like, I'm sorry I had to see that, but if it ever happens, and she goes, oh, I'll kill you dead.
Yeah.
You know.
If Cordy was in this part, though, like, wouldn't it sort of be more glaring? Like, why isn't she having a vision? Like, why isn't, like, and then it comes down to the other visions hacked. And, like, because we've already established that they can be after that vision thing.
Well,
that old gang of mine, I think I was mixing up.
You were asking why, like, when it comes to prophecies and storytelling stuff, that, like, they always sort of revert to, well, I don't know, baby.
Yeah, I know. Just leaving it open so you can believe whatever you want.
Yeah, the answer is writing 22 episode seasons is hard. You don't want to remove any tool that you have in your grab
chicken
bag.
out. I just for once want to see one to be like, this is a load of bullshit. People who write prophecies try and make them come true because then they get some power out of idiots who fucking follow it. But anyway, that would be my 2 cents. Maybe this is why I'm not writing episodes. I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying is I think that the writers are reluctant to remove any tool in their arsenal for just coming up with plots. You got a weekend. The last episode
not necessarily. You could just say this particular prophecy was a load of shit. Just because one might be correct from a particular source. Like, how do we know this source was good? Like, you know what I mean? Like, as in.
Yeah, I'm reminded of the one where in season 4 where Ethan comes back and Giles is there in the crypt because there's some prophecy that something evil is about to rise and it doesn't. So they every once in a while they do that. But is there anything else you want to throw out about the episode?
No, I'll leave it there.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. In 2 weeks, normal again.
Which is not controversial episode at all. That also won't inspire any discussion.
Which is
that's going to be a very straightforward, just cut and dry. Yeah,
it's an episode with a lot of padding, honestly.
Yeah, it's basically filler at this point.
Yeah. Season 6, like, no matter how you feel about it, there's so much complex, interesting stuff. It's full of stuff. full of stuff to talk about. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, friends. 2 weeks.
Thanks, guys.
Early release of Pylea end of next week, and then for everyone else, right before the hangout, 2 weeks from now. And we'll see you then.
See you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.